Have you ever read a book so dense you felt like you needed a PhD just to get through the first chapter? Well, the German philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer wrote one of the all-time greats in that category, The World as Will and Idea. But here's the crazy part. He claimed that this entire monster of a book was just the expression of a single thought, just one, an idea so powerful it would influence everyone from Nietzsche to Freud. So what is the single thought? That's exactly what we're going to unpack. Right out of the gate, Schopenhauer hits you with one of the most famous opening lines in all of philosophy. The world is my idea. Now, this isn't just some poetic intro. This is the bedrock of his entire system. He's making a wild claim here. Everything you see, everything you experience only exists as a perception in your mind. It's your idea. All right, to really get our heads around this, we're going to follow Schopenhauer's single thought through 5 key steps. First, we'll tackle what he means by the world as our idea. Then, we'll uncover its secret identity, the will. After that, we got to face the tragic consequences of this whole setup, and then explore the escape routes Schopenhauer offers, first through art and then the final path of denial. So, to really get Schopenhauer, you have to understand the philosophical giant he was responding to, Immanuel Kant. See, before Kant, most philosophers kind of thought our minds were like mirrors, just passively reflecting the world as it is. Kant came along and basically shattered that mirror. He argued that our minds actually build our reality, leaving this huge philosophical mystery that Schopenhauer was convinced he was born to solve. So what Kant did was split reality in two. On one side, you have the world of appearances, the phenomena. That's everything we see, hear, and touch, all of it shaped by our minds. But on the other side, there's the numina, the thing in itself, the true reality behind it all. And Kant's big conclusion was that this reality was a locked room. We could never, ever know what's inside. Schopenhauer agreed with the setup, but he was like, no way, I've found the key to that room. So how in the world do you get access to a reality that's supposedly beyond all experience? Well, Schopenhauer's answer was an absolute game changer, and it's the heart of his entire philosophy. This was the question in philosophy after Kant. What is the true nature of everything, separate from how we perceive it? Schopenhauer's genius was to realize the answer wasn't out there in the world, it was in here, inside us. Think about it. You experience your own body in 2 totally different ways. From the outside, it's just an object, an idea, like anything else. But you also have an inside view. You experience your body directly, as a force, as desires, impulses, striving. That raw, driving energy is what Schopenhauer calls the will. And he says, that's it. That's our one direct peek behind the curtain at the thing in itself. And here's where it gets really wild. Schopenhauer argues that this will isn't just in you. It's the inner secret of everything. The force that pulls a stone to the ground, the energy that pushes a plant toward the sun, the instinct driving an animal, it's all the same thing. They are all just different masks worn by this one single blind striving will that powers the entire universe. Okay, so if the fundamental reality of everything is just this endless, aimless striving, what does that mean for us? Well, this is where Schopenhauer gets his reputation as a pessimist, because the consequences are pretty grim. See, because the will is one single thing, but it appears as billions of different individuals, it's basically in a constant state of civil war with itself. Every single creature is a manifestation of the will fighting every other creature for resources, for life. For Schopenhauer, nature isn't beautiful harmony. It's a brutal, endless battlefield. And for us conscious humans, this cosmic war plays out as personal suffering. We are wired to constantly want things. We suffer from desire until we get what we want. Then we get a brief moment of satisfaction, which immediately turns into boredom, which then becomes the seed for a new desire. So for Schopenhauer, life is basically a pendulum that swings back and forth between pain and boredom. Suffering isn't an accident, it's the default setting. I know, it's a bleak picture, but Schopenhauer doesn't just leave us there in despair. He offers a couple of potential escape hatches. The first one is a temporary getaway, and we find it, believe it or not, in art. So how does art pull this off? Well, when you have a truly aesthetic experience, when you're completely lost in a piece of music or a painting, you stop seeing things in relation to yourself. You're not asking, what can this do for me, or how does this affect me? For a moment, you forget yourself, your desires, your ego, and you become what he calls a pure, will-less subject of knowledge. You're just purely observing. And in that moment, that constant grinding of the will inside you just stops. The hamster wheel stops turning, and you feel this incredible, profound peace that's just impossible to find in your normal desire-fueled life. It's a temporary break, a Sabbath, as he calls it, from the hard labor of always wanting.
A temporary escape is nice, but Schopenhauer thought a more permanent kind of salvation was possible. And this path is way more radical. It requires not just silencing the will for a little while, but ultimately denying it completely.
So you've got two basic ways to live. The default setting is the assertion of the will. That's just normal life, driven by ego, serving your own desires. But the path of denial starts with this profound insight. You realize that the same suffering will that's inside you is also inside every other living thing. That knowledge just shatters the ego and leads to this deep, universal compassion and a conscious choice to turn away from the will's demands. And this leads to his most shocking conclusion. If the entire world is just the will showing itself to us as an idea, what happens when you completely turn off the will through this act of denial? Well, the world itself just vanishes. For the person who has achieved this, our entire reality, with all its stars and galaxies, becomes nothing. It's an entry into a state of total peace that Schopenhauer saw as similar to the Eastern concept of nirvana. And that's it. That's Schopenhauer's single, sprawling, incredible thought. It leaves us with this massive question to chew on. If our very nature is to strive, and that striving is doomed to be painful, is our only hope for real peace found in a momentary glimpse through art? Or does it require something more, a final, world-ending denial of the very thing that makes us who we are? It's a heavy choice, but one that has haunted thinkers for generations.
This is for entertainment and educational purposes only.